Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com. So I've come to the conclusion or the perspective that all this trans activism, right, that this whole groundswell, all of a sudden, it's just trans it's trans all day. It's 24/7 trans. Yeah. And it's such a minute section of the population, but now you would believe that every other person's trans if you turn on the TV or the media. And but when I
put a chip in your head.
But then I saw a video and I figured out where this is coming from. I saw a video of Larry Fink from BlackRock, and he was talking about forcing DEI and ESG on companies, right? So if you don't know what BlackRock is, they're they're one of the handful of companies that own everything, right?
Everything.
Everything. They own everything, right? And so I'm like, oh, this didn't come from the bottom up. This didn't come from the grassroots. This came from the top down. And so now I've been telling people on my show that and it's the perfect thing to divide people. And then a corporation like BlackRock, which is raping the planet and screwing workers everywhere, gets to shield themselves in a patina of, look, we love gay people. Look, we have pride flags, right, and we're promoting lesbians and trans people of color and gay people and all that, and we get to put them in our cabinet. It's just like,
and you're hurting the climate.
And you're yes. And so,
right.
And so do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, 100%. And I think that there are, multiple things true at once here. No, it was not, groundswell. It did not just organically. Everyone kind of was like, oh my God, we have to care about these issues, because at the end of the day, even though trans was a much nicher topic before the, crazy politicization of it and shoving it into the media, it's not as if people didn't have some baseline understanding that like there are people in the world that do that and like whatever. And whether you had an issue or not, actually, I feel like most people didn't care.
It was never an issue.
No,
in New York,
it was not. And with the gay issue, I think what's really kind of sad about that is we reached a place where there was not two people willing to sit in a room and even debate if gay marriage was, right or wrong. There was like almost unanimous support for it. And then almost complete unanimous indifference at best towards gay people. The public attitude towards gay people was just fine. And that wasn't going to do, just kind of like you said about how, the race stuff was fine for a while. They can't have that. So they had to, twist it. And the trans is just a sprinkle on top, an extra niche, community. And the other side of that is like gay and trans people, weren't part of that plan, but they are falling, subservient to it because they're also being psyoped into thinking that this is because these huge corporations love them, which is about the dumbest position you could take. But that's most people, the government, corporations, they care about me, So when gay people, especially maybe like millennial and like boomer, like gays, it's like they grew up in a time where you couldn't tell anyone you were gay because it was a bad thing in society, to now there's like Bud Light stickers and like Verizon, trucks doing their parades, and they're like, oh my God, this is great. But they don't realize there's a darker side to that.
You want to say?
Well, yeah, the drug thing is a big deal because not just, you know, the lifestyle of doing meth or chemsex or something, but I mean, the whole country is drug addicts of some kind. All of America is some kind of drug addict. Some of the drugs work better than others, but there's a major big pharma aspect to this where they're like, we got to give these to, like, especially the thing with the kids is they're giving them the drugs and these things that I only heard of bodybuilders taking back in the day, like the hormones and shit. That's like a massive part of this. There's so much corporate synergy with a moneymaker on this. It's really creepy. Like, that's why it's getting pushed so hard.
If you get people on hormones, right? So you got you have a customer for life.
Ozempic you got to take for life.
Right. And so what do you say about that, Blaire?
I completely agree. You know, the power of big pharma is something that, although it can seem hypocritical because I am trans and I am on medication for that, it's not something that I'm okay with for minors at all. You know, big pharma terrified me during COVID. That woke me up. It's like, oh, wow, they're literally trying to put needles in me for shit I'm not consenting to, you know? And when it comes to kids, there is no consent for any of it, for transition, for hormones, for, God forbid, surgeries. There's many states where you can give these kids surgeries, right? As early as just a couple years ago, you could be as young as 12 in Texas like 2022 and before, and you could get a double mastectomy, which is the removal of both of your breasts. And that to me is just another example of, you know, an agenda that's been placed on this minority of people that when I transitioned even 10 years ago, the idea of kids doing it was like not even a thing. Like I genuinely, once it started becoming a political thing, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's technically a thing you could do to kids, but that's so crazy. And it's really dark, you know, as someone who has actually been through transition and knows the ins and outs of it, you know, the medical aspect of it, the idea that that's even remotely appropriate for a child, I can't even conceive of it. All I can do is speak out against it, which I've been doing for years. And people are starting, I think, to come around, even within the community, which has been really shocking. I'm starting to see people pop up and say, you know what, maybe Blaire, who we've been treating like dog shit for 8 years on YouTube, is actually correct about these things. And so that's hopeful. But in the meantime, there's a lot of damage being done, a lot of kids having their lives ruined.
Well,
and a lot of adults, by the way, because there used to be so many restrictions for how you even get on these drugs. They've completely wiped out all of those. So you even have, you know, adults who they're adults, so they can consent. But we all know many adults who are dealing with less than a full deck of cards who aren't really consenting. What if you're extremely autistic? What if you're mentally ill in other ways? You know, there's just a lot of reasons why the entire medical aspect has been a mess.
Well, in California, I often point this out on stage, is that you can't even use a tanning bed until you're 18. Even with your parents' consent, you can't use a tanning bed until you're 18. Mm-hmm. So, but
you can't vape.
but there's certain places in the country you can get a double mastectomy.
In fact, California is a sanctuary state, so there's cases out in Texas with like parents who have a divorce because maybe the dad doesn't agree with the kid transitioning, or the mom doesn't, vice versa, and the parent who agrees with it takes the kid in the divorce to California to have these things done. I mean, really, really dark stuff. And to me, it's kind of a 1 + 1 = 2 that this is going to result in, you know, bad situations and people having their lives ruined. And for me, it's only a few years out that these 15-year-olds are going to be 18, 19, 20 and be able to tell their stories. They already are. But it's just, it's sick. To be frank, it's sick.
Hey, let me just say, you work hard to support your family, but it may seem as though you are taking a step back every month instead of taking a step forward. When the bills are higher than what you bring in every month, you have to swipe that credit card to cover the difference, right? And the debt keeps adding up. But if you own a home, our friends over at American Financing can help you break free from that cycle. American Financing is saving people like you an average of $854 a month. Think about what you could do with that extra $854 a month and not having to worry about those minimum monthly payments. And even better, it costs nothing to find out how much you can save. All it takes is a quick call to American Financing, and if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing today and start your journey towards being credit card and debt-free. That's 888-804-0303. That's 888-804-0303. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Jimmy. AmericanFinancing.net/Jimmy. Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com.